Hi, and thank you for being here. I'm Janet, otherwise known as Jan Plan on, on Instagram, TikTok. Here on YouTube, I'm just Janet Estrada. If you've watched any of my other videos on YouTube, you have probably noticed that I did not have any idea what I was going to be talking about. I think the first video I started telling my childhood story, and then the second video I told about my little brother being born at home in the mountains of Puerto Rico. Anyways, I have come to a good idea. At least I hope it's a good idea. And it is discussing books that I read. So I am very much into the personal development, self-improvement, personal finance, physical fitness, like that arena. And I was already reading a lot of nonfiction books. I counted and I read almost 20 last year. So I'm just gonna do a video each week and talk about them. So thank you if you stuck around. And if you're new here, then welcome. The book that I'm going to be talking about today is The Psychology of Money. I'm not really gonna do like a summarization. You can find those everywhere on the internet. I'm not gonna do a review either because you can learn from just about any book. So I'm not gonna say like, no, don't read this book, it's a load of crap. But I also am going to pull out what affected me the most, what I think are the most important points. So it's really more like my take on a book, on a certain book, and a discussion about it. So not to waste any more time. At this point, I would have the intro music, like ba-da-ba-da-ba, and then like moving clips, and I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm going to, but okay, let's skip that part. And I already did the introduction, so I'm looking at this whiteboard right here to help me. I guess I am going to have to edit this now because I was just going to do one take all the way through, but that won't be good because of all this fucking meandering I'm doing. At least I can edit that out. So I already introduced myself a little bit. Janet Estrada in Athens, Georgia, Jan Plan. I like to call myself a personal development entrepreneur, lifestyle optimization entrepreneur. And I do believe that, once you make the decision to live your very best life, that the outcome and what your reality is very much in one's own control. And it was after, coming to that conclusion that my life has started to change. And it's not because it just randomly started to change. It's because I started making a concerted effort to design my life in a way that, I want. So without further ado, The Psychology of Money. So a lot of personal finance books are about budgeting. They're about, savings rate. There's a lot of numerical content. There's even the most quintessential Rich Dad Poor Dad, is about assets and liabilities, and he does all the quadrants, and it's very kind of math oriented. What I enjoyed about this book, The Psychology of Money, is writing it from a psychological perspective. So behavior oriented instead of like knowledge based. And the main premise behind the whole book is that your personal experiences will affect your behavior towards money far more than, what you have learned. And at the end of this video, I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway. So keep watching. Lots of anecdotes, little stories. It doesn't feel like you're reading a textbook in any way. He talks about the difference between luck and risk. Luck and risk both being almost impossible to measure, and how those both affect long-term outcomes. When you're looking at somebody else's success, you're more likely to think that luck had something to do with it. But if you look at your own success, you're more likely to think that your efforts, your knowledge, got you where you are. It's nice that I can edit this because I'm going to have to. It's better to make consistently okay money decisions than one or two amazing decisions and stop. And like we see in a lot of areas of personal development or just any way of improving a certain area, consistency is really where where it comes down to if it's gonna stick or not. And we see that in, you know, weight loss and saving money and making, you know, habits to improve your morning routine. Like consistency is where it's at. He says in this chapter called Freedom, controlling your time is the highest dividend that money pays. Flexibility is the ultimate flex. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want is priceless. It is the highest dividend money pays. And we sometimes forget that. And, you know, you see these people just like hustling and working so hard. And yeah, they're probably making a lot of money, but they don't own their time. And time is the only resource that is limited. You can't make more time. So in these studies that they did, measuring happiness and how that correlates to other variables in people's lives, control over your time is like directly related to your happiness level. You work a bunch, you make a bunch of money, but you don't control your time, you might not be as happy as somebody who, you know, works a little bit, makes enough to survive, but can do whatever they want whenever they want. But I absolutely agree. I can, you know, from my own personal experience, this was also a very important point, which this is all important. This is also just like my first YouTube video, so I'm gonna just say some stuff that, you know, I wouldn't say once I'm more polished, but I'm starting somewhere. So wealth is what you don't see. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. That's so ironic, really, because we think, oh, a millionaire, like they have a nice house, a nice car, they are wearing jewelry, Rolexes, you know, all that stuff. But in reality, there is a difference between being rich and having wealth. And true long-term sustainable wealth, you don't see. It's in people's investment portfolios. It's, you know, it's money that you have not spent, which is almost the opposite of what you think. Because if you have $1 million, you literally have not spent it. And if you spend $1 million, you don't have it anymore. So that's, you know, a good thing to be thinking about. Wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the watches not worn, the clothes forgone, and the first class upgrade declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff that you see. So think about that. Wealth is what you don't see. That goes against a lot of what we see in our culture. You know, you're rich, so you spend money. It's like, no, actually, you're wealthy and you don't spend all your money. Of course, you know, once you have your passive income and your assets, paying for your liabilities, back to the rich dad, poor dad concept, you know, that can change a little bit, but you literally don't have money if you spend it, or you don't have that money anymore. So just spend wisely. Morgan Housel, I should have said that to begin with, is the name of the author. And he does actually share his investment and like saving technique at the end of the book. You know, invest in index funds, save or invest more than you spend. And there's this whole section devoted to save money. The only factor you can control generates one of the only things that matters. How wonderful. He has like a really nice casual writing voice too. I feel like I know him a little bit, or his, you know, his attitude. He also mentions that a lot of times people will only save money because they're saving up for a new car, a new house, a down payment, whatever. And he says, no, you don't want to save just for something specifically. You want to save to save. You need to have a specific amount of money, and not just your emergency fund. And this goes back to the flexibility option too. Like if you have however much money just ready to go, ready to spend on something, an investment hopefully, or an emergency, you're in a better position than most Americans who you know, don't have extra money. But the whole thing, paycheck to paycheck, is, you know, you don't have more money than that. You spend it all. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Really, really important. Savings without a spending goal gives you options and flexibility, the ability to wait and the opportunity to pounce. It gives you time to think. It lets you change course on your own terms. And I found that to be true early last year. I had saved up a lot of money and I was working at a job that I hated. And I was able to quit the job that I hated and live off of my savings for a little while in order to figure out what I wanted to do next. And here I am, self-employed still, and I'm like, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. If you want to buy or sell a house, I do that too. The biggest single point of failure with money is a sole reliance on a paycheck to fund short-term spending needs with no savings to create a gap between what you think your expenses are and what they might be in the future. And another important point here is the best plan you can have is for things not to go according to plan. Like, hands down. Shit will happen that you have no idea what's going to happen. You gotta be ready. This chapter here, you will change. Long-term planning is harder than it seems because people's goals and desires change over time. There's this concept called the end of history illusion, which I found really interesting. It is the idea that all of the changing you've done up until this point in time is it. You've reached this state of who you are now, and things are going to be, smooth sailing, not a lot of change from here on out. And that's obviously, not true. People are changing all the time, and that's a good thing, but it does affect your long-term investing strategy. If you're, when you're in your 20s, you're like, oh, I'd rather go on all these trips and I don't need to save for retirement. But then, you get to your 30s, your 40s, and you're like, oh shit, I need to save for retirement. I'm just going to not spend any money at all. I went through this phase. And then you kind of even out and you're like, no, I do need to be spending money. I need to enjoy my life currently, but you need to be ready to pivot and not give yourself shit for it. Only 27% of college grads have a job related to their major, according to the Federal Reserve, which is, pretty small. As an 18-year-old, you are given this, charge of figuring out what you want to do with your life, and that's unrealistic. And, another problem with our current education system. We should come to accept the reality of changing our minds. That's absolutely correct. And not give yourself a lot of shit for it, because he says this better. So sunk costs, anchoring decisions to past efforts that can't be refunded, are a devil in a world where people change over time. They make our future selves prisoners to our past different selves. It's the equivalent of a stranger making major life decisions for you. Embracing the idea that financial goals made when you were a different person should be abandoned without mercy versus put on life support and dragged on can be a good strategy to minimize future regret. The quicker it's done, the sooner you can get back to compounding. And of course, compound interest needs so long to do its magic. And the quicker you can abandon irrelevant strategy or job or something you don't want to do anymore, instead of stubbornly holding on to it, can change how things turn out. And then he has this section in the back that is summary of everything that we just said, what we've learned about the psychology of your own money. This is funny. Congratulations, you're still reading. It's time to tie together a few things we've learned. It says a lot throughout the book that humility and compassion go a lot further in getting the respect of others than parading around with your conspicuous consumption and your wealth right there. Manage your money in a way that helps you sleep at night. That's huge. Everybody's strategy is going to be different. Their needs are going to be different. Be okay with a lot of things going wrong. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. Use money to gain control over your time. Flexibility is the ultimate flex. And then he goes through and talks about his own investing strategy. Save a lot, save often, invest, low-cost index funds. Don't try to beat the market. We all know that doesn't work unless you're some kind of wunderkind, and I'm not. So I choose to invest in real estate and index funds. Yeah, I got Bitcoin. We're all waiting. We'll see what happens. But in my opinion, that's not, what I'm going to bank my entire future on. Had I gotten into it earlier, yes, that would have been great, but I didn't have the foresight to do that. So there you have it, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. If you have made it this far, I appreciate you being here and watching that. It was a great book. I enjoyed it a lot. It was my favorite of last year, actually. And I'm going to have a contest giving away this copy, actually, that I have a lot of annotations in, notes and underlining. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and then comment below and make a suggestion of a book that you want to see me discuss. And the next 2 books that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to post every Monday, if that helps. The book that I'm reading right now that I'm going to do next week is Get Rich Like a Bitch, recommended to me by my friend Lauren Vosecki. And, you know, it's a lot about mindset stuff. It's a lot of things that I've read before, but she has her own take on it, and it's interesting. I'm learning a lot. And then Ikigai, which I have seen sort of around social media and the personal development spaces, and the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. So there's got to be some good secrets in there. Otherwise, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I got to figure out how to edit these things.